of Weber Shandwick to discuss that group known as the Millennials and how they can guide business to make decisions, and to also look at millennial purchasing trends in Africa. Jill, thanks very much for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start at the beginning, because this report that you generated really was talking about brands and consumers, and how consumers are now looking at companies and their brands, and it's a little bit more than just, do my shoes fit? Does my television set work?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a fascinating study, Peter. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, it's really saying that that consumers are wanting CEOs, they're wanting companies to really speak about the issues that are trending, that are important to them.
But they're not politicians. Why on earth would they want the CEO of a bank to talk about homelessness?
Right. Well, our research really showed that, I mean, particularly now, political uncertainty, economic uncertainty, when we look at, let's say, the millennial population, they're looking for leadership. They're looking for someone to take the lead, to speak about what's going on.
Is this to substitute the politicians, or is it that they want to make sure that the companies are not oblivious to what's going on around them and are focused only on profits?
No, absolutely not. I don't think it takes away from what the politicians have traditionally said in that role. I think you know, what our research really shows is that they want the engagement. They want to hear what's going on. I think also with the spending power now, it's looking at, where do I want to spend my money? I want to spend it where I'm comfortable.
So if the CEO of a bank is not on Twitter and saying, oh my goodness, I'm horrified what that's happening, our bank is going to do X, Y, Z, what are the consequences?
Well, I think the risk is high, but on that point, we're not saying that CEOs or executives must speak on everything. Yes. I think it really must go into a strategy that goes back to the company's values, their missions. It's different if you're a banker or you're selling shoes or handbags or renewable energy, right? The message is always different. So I think it's a calculated message that needs to be planned out.
So let's talk about these millennials. Who on earth are they? We've said 18 to 36, so I'm not that. I don't know, I'm 50-something, so what does that make me, a baby boomer?
I believe so,
okay,
yes.
So what is it about these millennials? What is this behavior?
Well, it's fascinating. You know, I was doing research, and there's so many different definitions of millennials, right, around the world. I think the factor that remains the same is they're creative, they're young, they're tech savvy, and they're engaged. They're always on. They're always engaging, and that leads back to your earlier point. That's why CEOs need to be engaging. Right. They're careful where they're spending their money.
So these millennials, will they make a purchasing decision and saying, look, company X has never talked about X, Y, Z, and company Y has? I had a friend when I lived in the UK for a while. She would only bank at the co-op bank and only buy fair trade stuff. Is this typical millennial behavior?
That's what our research is showing, absolutely. They're more likely to buy from a company that the executive team, the CEO, is speaking out about issues that are important, taking a stance. Are
millennials the same around the world? Because I can't imagine an 18-year-old in Zimbabwe is the same as an 18-year-old in the UK or the US or China even.
That's an interesting question, and I've thought about it quite a bit, actually. Look, the underlying definition, I think a lot of the trends, the personality traits are similar, and that's a very broad statement. I think when you look into sub-Saharan Africa, though, and this is my opinion, the amount of innovation and creativity that we're seeing, I mean, go to the iHub in Nairobi, all the innovation centers that are popping up, I mean, and a lot of that is coming. A lot of that thinking is coming from millennials, from the younger generation. So I don't have the research on it, but I'd love to dig into that.
Do you think it's technology that's changed the way that they look at the world?
Absolutely. Okay. It has to be. I mean, yeah.
All right. So you spoke to consumers around the world, and you spoke to CEOs around the world. Are we similar in the findings that you had in this report?
Similar, but a couple things stuck out to me that were really interesting. And one, speaking about South Africa in particular, was that consumers in South Africa, 95% of them that we interviewed say that they know the power that they have. So they think and they realize that they're powerful, which creates a lot of opportunity. But it's interesting how executives, on the other hand, are responding to that.
So, knowing that you have power and acting upon it, slightly different things. Have you been able to get a sense that, you know, I do know I have the power, but are we acting on it? Are we making decisions? I mean, I certainly do. I know that for certain. And if I'm upset with a store, I could boycott them for ages. Is that the kind of thing that our consumers are doing in South Africa? Yeah,
I mean, definitely, and that's increasing. And boycotting was a thing that came up, and consumers are more likely to do that. Absolutely.
So what's your best advice for businesses? And listening to this conversation, what should they be doing and thinking about?
Well, I think all the way from the board level down to your most junior employees. What is your mission? What is your value? And where are you going to take a stance? Where are you going to speak? You definitely don't speak about everything, but you've got to take, you know, it's really important, and that's what the research is showing, that you've got to speak about what's most important to your organization.
Jill Hamilton, fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your company's report with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.